Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this next edition of the Kaizen Culture Speaker Series. Today's presentation, I will actually be presenting myself, and the topic is Kaizen is respect for people. I feel like respect for people is a topic that we don't give enough justice, and hopefully today we'll begin to make some good conversation around this topic. For those of you who have joined us for this series, as you probably already know, that we are very serious about helping companies to create a true culture of Kaizen, has eluded so many organizations. So today, prepare to be challenged to think about Kaizen and creating a Kaizen culture and continuous improvement in a way like you never have before. Quick overview of the agenda. We'll do an introduction. I'll introduce myself as I'll be the main presenter today. Then we'll step into our main presentation. Kaizen is respect for people. Then we got some stuff to give away, so make sure you stick around for that at the end. And then we'll do a brief outro. And today's presentation should go no longer than 30 minutes. So if you're on your lunch break, it's a great time to get some good intel and then get right back to work. Just to introduce myself, again, Calvin Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Improver. We have the #1 rated continuous improvement software on the market. It's AI powered. It's got root cause analysis. It's got project and Kaizen management. It's got Toyota Kata and stories management and some other really exciting features. But it's also got on the other side a university that can certify folks in Lean Six Sigma, and in the near future, we'll have world-class manufacturing as well with TPM. Lean Six Sigma all the way from white belt all the way up to master black belt level. So really cool system. If you haven't checked it out, I highly encourage you to do so. I've got 20 years experience in operations, continuous improvement, strategy execution, and so forth. I've had the privilege to work for some really phenomenal companies, Nestle, Mars, Colgate, the military industrial base, Clorox, and several others. And as of last year, it's been almost a year and a half now, I have been an author of a book called FIT, The Simple Science of Achieving Strategic Goals. And make sure you stick around to the end of the presentation for a chance to win an amazing prize. You're not gonna wanna miss out on that. So let's jump right into today's presentation. Kaizen is respect for people. So if you think about business operations as an ecosystem that has several key stakeholders involved, from customers and clients to employees to government to owners to the environment, and in some cases, many others, right? What Kaizen does is helps to establish balance amongst those stakeholders, help to establish harmony, because a system that is operating out of harmony doesn't sustain as well, right? And we know that one of Toyota's key values is sustainment, long-term sustainment in the market, right? To build a healthy organization that can sustain over the long term. We think of cost savings, we think of growth, we think of all these things, but what all those add up to is a company that's going to be around, strong brand for the test of time. So how does Kaizen help develop respect for people? In a few key ways. First, by helping the organization adapt to constantly changing internal and external needs, right? So all of these stakeholders around the table have needs, and those needs evolve with time, right? Everybody's sort of reacting to the reality that they're facing, plus being proactive about achieving their goals and so forth, so their needs are changing. What Kaizen does is says, all right, we're going to stay adaptive to the market that we serve, or to the labor market that we use to run our business, or to the environment that's changing and so forth. So Kaizen basically gives the organization a level of adaptability to keep up with the times. The next thing it does is it helps leverage the contributions of all to the greater good. And I think that's a very important point, because if you look at the true definition of Kaizen, it is disciplining yourself for the greater good of the community, right? It's change for good, which we interpret as continuous improvement, but the more literal translation is self-discipline for the greater good of the community, right? And if you look at the community as the ecosystem that a business operates, right, it's looking at yourself and saying, how can we adapt to the current reality? And the last piece is eliminating exploitation and abuse. No one piece of this puzzle or this ecosystem should be proffering and or just growing, or growing wealthy or proffering at the expense or at the detriment of another piece of the ecosystem. That creates an unsustainable or imbalance within the system. So really what Kaizen is doing is let's make sure everybody that we need or that we're part of this community is winning, right? It's creating a win-win situation all around. And in doing so, you're respecting the needs of others, all the others involved anyway. As you guys probably know, creating a culture of Kaizen is difficult. And if you really diagnose some of the main contributing factors, you'll see these amongst those factors being detachment, complacency, negligence, and a few others as well. But these are three key ones. And a lot of this comes from the behaviors of leaders, because leaders have a disproportionate impact on the culture of the organization, especially when it comes to a culture of Kaizen. So when we talk detachment, this is designating Kaizen to one person or a small team instead of making it truly part of the culture, something everybody's doing every day. And what this does is when you do compartmentalize Kaizen to a person or a small team, is that the organization as a whole, right, the critical mass of the organization never build the mindset, the capability, the muscle, the discipline to make or sustain improvement. And sometimes you can't make kind of spot or isolated improvements, but the sustainment is usually a challenge, right? And the only way to deal with this is that leaders must make Kaizen everyone's job, including their own, right? True spirit of Kaizen is discipline yourself for the greater good. The second one here, complacency. This is failing to set goals that challenge people and teams to improve. And what this does is that people begin to resist change because they believe that they can succeed without improving. They can sort of sit back and wait. They feel they can sort of sit back and wait on other people to improve, or wait on some leader to come in and change things, or wait on their people to get better, right? They feel, hey, I'm not the problem, therefore I can remain the same and things are going to be good. So what we have to do as leaders in these organizations is challenge the organization in such a way that it requires every individual to go beyond what they're currently capable of in order for the organization to be successful. The third one here is negligence. This is underinvesting time, money, attention, and other resources toward creating the Kaizen culture. You've all heard it, I've heard it, right? We don't have time, we don't have money, we can't afford it, so forth and so on. What this does is that the organization begins to ignore Kaizen as well. If it's not important to you as a leader, it will show, and others start to believe that this really shouldn't be that important to them either, right? And what we have to do as leaders is we have to keep our foot on the gas pedal, so to say, and make Kaizen a priority. So what is the main role of leadership in creating a Kaizen culture, right? And it's actually really simple. Leaders develop the people to improve the processes that serve the customer, right? So you can see the servant leadership model here, the upside inverted triangle. What leaders typically do, especially underdeveloped leaders, what they typically do is there's an issue that either is impacting the customer or could impact the customer. And the first thing they want to do is go jump in and roll their sleeves up and solve the problem themselves, right? They want to do the thinking. They want to go out and fix the issue, even maybe go directly to the customer in some cases and fix the issue themselves and, be the hero, so to say, in some cases. But the consequence of doing this is that you end up with a block of people in the middle, the ones who probably created the problem in some cases, right? who may have made a mistake or maybe don't understand what they should be doing or whatever the case is, right? They don't develop, again, that muscle, that capability of solving problems their own, themselves, right? So a leader has to take every advantage, every opportunity to develop the muscle, the problem-solving capability within their people, so that when small problems come up in the process or in the, in the operation that serves the customer, they can handle problems of greater and greater magnitude over time. Because leaders who don't make the effort to do this end up carrying an outsized burden for the organization, because they end up getting buried by all of the problems that should be solved by their people, right? They end up playing a level lower than they should be, perhaps 2 or 3 levels lower, at the expense of nobody's doing their job, which is to be thinking ahead and planning ahead and being proactive about what's coming down the pipeline for the organization and seizing new opportunities. So what leadership is really doing, if they're doing this well, what they're doing is facilitating high achievement, not just for themselves, but for their teams too, because their team's success add up to their success, right? If things are structured properly. And there's a couple key bullets on how to do this. One, set and align goals. And you can define a goal as having direction, distance, and deadline. For example, if you state that the goal is to increase efficiency, there's many ways to interpret this, and people could say, hey, whatever happens, they can say that efficiency is better, right? But if you say that the goal is to increase efficiency to 90% by July 1st, right? There's a lot more accountability. There's a lot more structure. It's a lot more clear and concise exactly what needs to happen and by when, right? The direction is increase efficiency. The distance is to 90%. The deadline is to July 1st or by July 1st, right? Very clear. The second thing, just as equally important for leadership to do is coach for greater achievement, right? Create a high achievement culture, really. And what I mean when I say coach is, I mean ask, don't tell, right? And this is a key respect for people thing here, is that a leader has to accept that sometimes their people know better than they do. And they almost always know better, right? They have a vantage point that the leader doesn't have, that they can see the problem in a more of a full 360 way that a leader that's maybe, up in the ivory tower just can't see, it just doesn't have. So in asking, you're showing respect. You're saying that, hey, I respect that you know the situation and probably have a pretty good way of fixing it, right? Maybe some of y'all heard of Toyota Kata, right? The 5 questions. Hey, what's your goal? What'd you do last and what you learned from it? What obstacles are in your way? What are you going to try next and by when? When can we go see? That's a perfectly good format to use to ask and approach the situation as a learner instead of a dictator or a teller, per se. The third thing here, remove roadblocks. That's both getting yourself out of the way, right? So that people can grow, learn, make mistakes, learn, grow, etc. And also removing the bureaucracy and removing the hurdles and the challenges that people have that keep them from being able to take autonomy and improve the business, right? As a leader, you kind of got to learn that your job is to eliminate your own job ultimately, right? That's almost impossible to really do, but ultimately you got to think of yourself as a teacher and a people developer as much as a leader, as a leader in the traditional sense. So, and the fourth step is never stop learning. Lead by example. Present yourself as someone who doesn't know, right? And refrain from jumping to conclusions and being the smartest person in the room, and approach every situation as a learner. Hey, you guys teach me what's going on, and you teach me the way forward, right? Hopefully, if you've done step 1 right, you've done a good job setting the goal. You've done a good job setting direction and aligning people behind a common direction. The next, the last step here is lead by example and allow people to lead in their various domains. Ultimately, though, you're just trying to build autonomy. The fastest way to adapt to the needs of the customer is to empower the front lines, empower middle management to see and solve problems themselves, keep the organization in lockstep with the customer as their needs change, as their demands grow or decline. Empower people who are closest to the customer, almost shaking hands with the customer to adapt along with the needs of the customer. And as a leader, you just empower them to do so and keep them and keep the perspective of the company's goals as well. Kaizen requires engaging the whole person. And as companies, we love to engage the left brain, right? People have left brain, right brain, right? Two different types of functions come from each, right? So we love to engage the left brain. This is logic, this is reason, this is processing knowledge, it's structure. This is, hey, here's the job, go do it, right? And people who are strong left brain people can take that job and they can do a great job and perhaps even make some incremental improvement in the process of doing so. But right brain is a whole different thing, where this is where creativity, imagination, transformative learning and thinking comes from, right? Understanding, free flow, right? In many cases, employees feel, and I felt this way, I assume you have too in some cases, that your company or your boss wanted you to leave this part of your brain at home, right? Because it is the side where you're challenging the status quo a little bit in some cases, right? You're saying, is there a better way to do things? But this is also the side of the brain where true Kaizen comes from, improvement ideas. This is a side where breakthrough progress can be made. If companies aren't tapping into both sides here, they're leaving half of their organization's brain trust outside of the business and not gaining from it, right? In a all things equal race where one company is doing a great job tapping into both sides and one company is not, you can bet which company is going to win in the long term, right? It's the company that's going to adapt quicker, that's going to change quicker, that's going to stay flexible, it's going to be adaptive and so forth, right? So right brain, bring this to work too. This is where breakthrough progress comes from. Okay, so that's my talk. I know, short and sweet. If you have any questions, now would be the time to ask. You guys feel free to come off mute and ask away. Maria, I'll let you facilitate this part of the conversation.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Well, we get the questions submitted. Calvin, you mentioned that companies struggle with creating a culture of Kaizen. Is there also a culture of lack of respect for people that makes Kaizen difficult? Or put another way, a lack of respect for people, a two-way street is the lack of respect for people, a two-way street between leaders and frontline employees?
Okay, yeah, that's a fantastic question. So the first one is lack of respect causing a culture of making Kaizen difficult. Short answer is absolutely. I think like in America, for example, and I'm sure the same as many other places in the world, there's a culture or a value system of rugged individualism, right? That encourages people to say, hey, let me succeed, even if it's at the expense of my neighbor or other people, right? There's kind of a missing community component that you do see in other parts of the world. And I know this is a big deal in Toyota, and I've heard it was more of a thing in Eastern cultures, Japan and some other Eastern cultures as well, to put the community before the self, right? And I think that's why a lot of American companies' journey into Kaizen and continuous improvement has been a little more challenging, and it's faced more challenges. The other question you asked about is it a two-way street between leaders and direct reports? Absolutely. I mean, it's a people thing, right? It's a personal thing, right? Some people are raised to be more respectful of others and some aren't, right? It kind of goes back to their upbringing. Now, in an organization, though, that has a hierarchy, has a structure, has all that in place, leaders have more tools and more mechanisms to garner respect, to sort of enforce and reinforce respect for the leader. But a lot of time, the folks on the front lines don't have those mechanisms. There are tools. Unionization, perhaps, is one of them, but that's a very difficult thing to do, right? That's not a thing you can do in a day, right? If there's an issue, and maybe it's too much of a overreaction to a slight, to a slight in respect. But there, but it's using your voice, organizing, and so forth. But leaders certainly have the advantage in that situation. Any other questions?
All right, so Calvin, taking that into consideration, what you just said, can you think of some other best practices in creating a top-down culture of respect for people within the organization?
Yeah, so some of the things I've seen, I can give you an example. I work for a company called Mars, and Mars probably did a better job at this than many of the other places I've seen, is that they did surveys of the workforce. And I think it was every 6 months, maybe every year, they did a Gallup survey where the employees got a chance to rate their manager on 12 criteria. And a lot of it was around, is this manager leading in a respectful way, in a way that fosters the culture that the company is trying to create and so forth. And the thing about this, and this drove at least one manager crazy, but the thing about this was that in order to get promoted, your Gallup score had to be of a certain rank, right? Like if you got less than a 7 out of 10, then you pretty much were removed from, the opportunity, the promotion pool, basically, the promotion track. And I thought this was a great thing because it gave people a voice. It gave people the opportunity to sort of speak up if they didn't feel things were being managed very well. So it kind of empowered the people, I think, a little bit.
Thank you, Calvin. Here, Maria Isabel asks, is MTM aligned with this respect of lean culture?
MTM, can you, Maria Isabel, can you, is that manage the manager, or what does that mean? What does that acronym mean?
Let's give Isabel a second.
Okay.
Maria Isabel, you can unmute and give us a little bit more insight on MTM.
But yeah, I would definitely say that, lean, if you look at the lean house, the TPS house, there's two pillars. There's continuous improvement and there's respect for people, right? And within the continuous improvement pillar, there's lots and lots of research and tools, and most of the Kaizen presentations you'll sit through, you'll see, mostly focused on the tools that are in the continuous improvement box. But rarely do we see tools and conversation on the respect for people side. And I would make the case that the reason for Kaizen is respect for people. Like, we continuously improve because we respect our customer, because we respected the time of our employees who work, 8-10 hours a day. We respect their time by not giving them wasteful activities, right? And frustrating work, right? Kaizen helps improve those things. We respect managers because, they get frustrated when there's issues and problems and various things that shouldn't happen that Kaizen can help address, right? So I would say the reason Kaizen is needed is the respect for people itself. Is to show respect to people and all of the folks that are involved in the ecosystem.
All right, let's see. Nate asks, if the servant leadership pyramid is flipped upside down and the approval needs to go through senior leadership, how do you influence those leaders to empower middle management through the front line?
Nate, that is the billion-dollar question right there. How do you influence powerful people, right? And it depends on the person. Everybody's different. On one hand, some folks are responsive when they see data and facts, and you can show, hey, we did this, and this is the benefit of it. Let's scale this up to more areas of the business. Certain folks are influenced by relationships, so being able to maybe send them messages through people they trust is a way to play it. And yeah, different people are influenced in various ways, but yeah, obviously the more angles you come and your communication and your influence campaign is targeted to a certain individual, the more likely you'll reach them in the way that they can be receptive to it. So, but I think the strongest case in every case is the facts. So if you can generate small wins that don't require the approvals, and then consistently present those small wins or present those realities, it'll start to break down some of the other realities that they may be holding or assumptions that they may be making, perhaps not so fairly. So yeah, so I guess the key is to win and do things within your control, and you got to be a little bit of a marketer and promoter to make sure that those wins are getting in front of the folks who have maybe a little more power and influence over the organization. So, all right, I think we're getting close on time. So let me share a few more things, and then I'll let you guys get back to it. So, all right, so talked earlier about my company, Improver, and we've got a really incredible campaign going now where we've built the capability to certify entire companies in Lean Six Sigma, from white belt all the way through to master black belt, right? And we've got a program where unlimited white belts, unlimited yellow belts, 25 green belts, 5 black belts, and 1 master black belt certification, 100% online, study at your own pace, plus access to our award-winning software, artificial intelligence, Kaizen management, project management, et cetera, plus time with a certified lean sensei to help scope out projects and help overcome challenges and so forth. All this for just 10K. Limited time offer. If you're interested in learning more about this, you can come check us out at improver.com, book some time, and we'll determine if that's right for you and get you set up. Okay, so for those of you stuck around to the end, got a quick game we can play, and I want to give away this very, very stylish, in my humble opinion, baseball cap that reads "Better Every Day," because I know all y'all here because y'all truly believe in getting better every day. So here's my book on the right side. It's called Fit, the Simple Science of Achieving Strategic Goals. In this book, we talk a lot about Kaizen and continuous improvement and leadership and many other things. So what I'd like you to do now is take your best guess at how many times the word leadership was used in the book. And I'll give you a hint. The book is about 60,000 words. Okay? So if you don't mind dropping in the chat your estimate on how many times the word leadership was used in the book, the person closest to the right answer wins this stylish, fashionable baseball cap just in time for the summer. Keep the sun out of your eyes and look good doing it. And also send the right message to those who see you in it. Better every day. What do y'all think? How many times does the word leadership appear in this book? Brian says 750. Okay, Brian, that's what I'm talking about. Nate says 14. Nate, you gonna make me do math? All right, fine. We'll do some math. It's all good. 14% of 60,000. I haven't done math since I learned how to use Excel. 8,400 times, according to Nate. I would say that's a lot. That's a lot. You know, leadership is important, but good Lord. Tamara says 1,000 times the word leadership appears in the book. First of all y'all need to go get the book and read it, okay? I'm just gonna give y'all a hint. All of y'all need to read the book, okay? Muhammad says 350. I'm gonna give y'all another hint. As much as I do like to talk about leadership, maybe I don't like to talk about it so much. Just saying. Just saying. Anybody else out there want to take a swag at it? Elaine says 245. Okay. 245. That's a good number. It's a big number. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a good number. I like it. And Brian says, we need to drive it harder. You know what, Brian? I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. I don't disagree. All right, going once. Anybody want to take a second guess? I'm gonna give y'all a hint. Everybody's too high. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to make a second guess. Brian says 175. Anybody else will take another shot? You got 3 seconds. Going once. Tamara says 100. Going twice. Muhammad comes in at 300. And the answer is 80. The word leadership appears 80 times in the book. But you know what? I believe all of y'all are leaders. You know, there's always something that we can do. But given that, Tamara, congratulations on your new hat. We'll get it sent out to you. Make sure you reach out to Maria in the chat here is fine, or LinkedIn is fine, and let her know your mailing details, and we'll get that sent out to you right away. And if you don't mind, when you get it, just go ahead and put it on, you know, take a selfie and drop it on LinkedIn and at me or at Improver or at Maria, and we'll help spread that around. So yeah, represent. Good stuff, Tamara. Appreciate it. Okay, on that note, we are out of time. I really appreciate you guys making time to join us. This was a lot of fun. I hope y'all got something from it. Always looking for speakers, and make sure to come check us out next month. We'll have another great presentation prepared for you. Other than that, have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Y'all take care.